6 months since Russia invaded Ukraine, and now Ukrainian forces are setting up a counteroffensive to take back regions that Russian troops have captured. Senior fellow and military expert at Defense Priorities and retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis joining us this morning. Great to have you, Colonel, as always.
Thanks to have me, Jan. Always happy to be here.
I think the resolve of the Ukrainian people right now is pretty remarkable. Many never thought this war would extend to 6 months. What do you make of what's happened so far, and what's it going to take for this to end?
Yeah, you certainly got to tip your hat to the Ukrainian people, because they have just endured extraordinary levels of hardship and destruction of their country, and loss of almost a quarter of their territory, over 20% so far. But I think that the progress over the last 6 months really kind of indicates just how high the hurdle is for Ukraine to try to clear, because they have not yet stopped Russia. Russia has slowed down a lot of the weapons that the U.S. has given in the West, with the HIMARS, with some of these 777 or howitzer pieces. Other kinds of help has slowed Russia down. It's definitely increased the cost, but Russia continues to advance. In fact, for the operation going on in the Kherson right now, there's also Russian offensive operations going on north of Kharkiv, throughout the Donbas area, and then even in parts of in the Kherson area itself. So Russia has not slowed down, and so far this after the first 3 days of this offensive, it actually has looked like Ukraine has suffered really high casualties. So we're waiting to find out just how bad it's been, but it's not looking very good actually for Ukraine.
Yeah, and you've pointed out repeatedly that there is no viable path through which Ukraine could stop the Russian advance and really drive them out. So then that begs the question, how much longer can the United States continue to support this war financially and provide equipment to Ukraine with our strained economy?
Well, I mean, you really hit the real dilemma right there on the head, is that there's the issue of wanting to help Ukraine, and why wouldn't anyone want to help a country that's been invaded by their larger neighbor? But there are other things involved, and the U.S. has to be concerned with our national interests. Europe has to be concerned with their national interests. And because of all of these sanctions that we have placed on Russia, well-meaning as though they may be, but they have consequences that come back on us, and that's helped drive the inflation. It's skyrocketed the cost of gas. That's natural gas in Europe, which is necessary for all their economic activity. And it's driving up unemployment and other kinds of negative economic pressures over there. And the question is going to be, can the West maintain this firm pro-Ukraine drive all the way through the winter, when things start getting really hard on the domestic populations?
It's going to be a long, dark winter for so many. Another big headline that we're watching right now is the Iran nuclear deal. One of our greatest allies, Israel, now questioning why we're even negotiating with the enemy and their drive to make nuclear weapons. Is there anything that could really stop Iran at this point?
Well, you know what? We got to really look at what's actually going on here. And look, the truth is, no matter where you want to fall politically, is that when the United States got out of the original nuclear deal, JCPOA, in May 2018, things got a lot worse for us, because this whole maximum pressure thing, where we're trying to drive them into a better deal, of course, never materialized. And in fact, the deal that we had in place with the restrictions on Iran, where the limitations on their nuclear program all were basically lifted off. And now then they've increased their nuclear stockpile of higher enriched uranium and other kinds of products. All of that because we got out of it. Now that we're trying to get back into it, and now then Iran has higher standards to get back into it. And it's really not clear at all that we're going to get a new deal here. But let me tell you this, though. This is important to understand. We are safe no matter what. With a deal, without a deal, our nuclear and conventional forces are so much stronger than anything Iran has, that there's nothing they can do that we can't take care of with our existing forces, and we don't need to be afraid of Iran.
So what is the U.S. giving up in this deal, and what do you make of this diplomatic approach then with Iran?
Well, there's not much we're giving up at all. In fact, if you take a look at it, it's Iran has for part of these 17 months we've been negotiating with them, have been holding out to have some of these sanctions relieved. They wanted to say, hey, take our country off of the terrorist watch list, whatever. We've said no, not even on the table, and we didn't even talk. So we gave up none of those things. But here's what we could potentially gain through diplomacy: is a lowering of tensions, is an increase on the amount of curtailment and problems on the Iranians to develop any nuclear material. That's what we would gain from it, but we don't lose anything. And I think that's really important for people to understand. We're not giving up anything.
Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, we appreciate you joining us here on the National Desk. Thank you.
Thank you.